Okay, all right. I think I am already live today. I wanted to do it in a different way, but I will do it in a different way. Today it is Talks on Live, obviously, but we will do it in a different way because since I mentioned touch, it's a very important topic. যখন আমরা এটাকে আমি বাংলায় বলবো বা ইংলিশ একটু মিশিয়েই বলছি, I will prefer to do it in English, in fact, because this talks on life or this talk on life, especially, I would like to do it in English for specific reasons. But yeah, I mean, in the morning, I wanted to do it at like 9:30 a.m. in the morning. I wanted to do it. The looks was a bit different, it was like wet hair and, this glamorous look and all that stuff. Didn't do it. Just looked at the environment, went for a walk, and then looked at things. Quite interesting, and quite educational because we don't think about the nonsense much. And in Talks on Life, we don't talk about those things because we are much above all these things. But occasionally, I go and I have a walk or I talk to people, sometimes different kinds of people, so that I get all these insights. And recently, I focused on few things a bit more because generally what we do is we look at the divinity of a human being, we look at the best, we look at the good things. So naturally, the relationship, when we look at a relationship, the first thing what we see is the good in people, the best in people. That is how we have learned, that is how we want to do our relations. Strategy can be a part of the professional relations. I'm not talking about that. Creativity can be a part of our relations. But without strategy, creativity, sometimes it's boring. Suppose you are flirting, you have a flirting strategy. You are dancing, you have a dancing strategy, and relationships are like that too. So it makes it more interesting. You enjoy it. You enjoy the dynamics of the relationship. But I will mention this and I will keep it short today. But in the next week, you will see the insights or the things of this discussion coming forward or going forward. You will see those things, elements of this discussion. And if you have been true to yourself in your life, at least once or at least few times, and you have realized that thing, then by this time, whatever I have discussed, I have mentioned it many times. Proximity, do we need proximity? I mean, we can touch each other by the words, or we can go away from each other using the words. And that group of words or those words can bring tears in someone's eyes. Now, the way I arrange the words, many people will criticize that because there are two types in India in terms of celebrities. One, they will talk about how to look down on people, especially people from outside, people outside the country. There is one who will think that they are the only ones who know how to interact with the people, outside, coming from some other country apart from India. These are the main two types, broadly two types. And we were discussing that in Artists Heaven. So I won't mention that. But today Talks on Life, I wanted to do it in a different way. Many people tell me, am I going to use the scientific terms like the hormones, the love hormones, and the neurotransmitters, and the things, the receptors, communication, the modality, and all these things? Am I going to talk about the scientific terms? Well, I cannot talk about these things without that, because that is always in my mind. But maybe to make you understand things a bit more, I will add a bit of philosophy, I will add a bit of poetry. But obviously, there is a great scientific part because you have to respect science, you have to respect the poetry, you have to respect philosophy. So when I talk in Talks on Life, you can think that since it's the episode number 10, you will think that everything is there, in a cohesive manner. So it is cohesive, everything is coming together. Now, how does it happen? Because you need to have those experiences. There is no substitute for those experiences. Imagination, you can rely on your imagination. Then also you are having great experiences, because studies are there. You will see psychological studies there, they are there. If you are totally involved in your imagination too, you can get so far, at least you can get to some extent. But you need to have those experiences, because this is very experiential, right? So by far, whatever I have talked, you will see I have mixed everything, because as a human being I am dealing with all these things. I'm experiencing, I'm realizing all these things, so everything is together. The moment it is because of the Indian culture and the media exposure to the Indian culture. And when we talk about Awaken, or Talks on Life is the one podcast, but generally when we talk about Awaken, we are much above those things. The matrix of the society, how the society is influenced, who are influencing the society. So many people will criticize me, behind my back. I don't give a damn, but you will have a learning experience by going through that. But I will say keep it short, because if you keep it short, then what happens is, you because what I have figured out is, these people, or these groups of people of these kinds, broadly two kinds, but there are three or four at max, not much creativity. So you don't have to invest much. You can broadly understand this, you can understand broadly these two types, and you will see two or three variations, and then you get some idea, because the other things what you can invest in, you don't require that in your own life. It will take you away from yourself, it will take you away from something good, it will take you away from your good experiences. So you don't need to do that. Whatever you need to know, you will understand by these discussions, or you can discover. The best thing is by your own realization. But the criticism will help, but don't invest too much time in those criticism, because it is not that creative. Same thing repeating, this guy will be the villain, this guy will be the hero, and the same thing. No matter how much you try to respect them, no matter how much you try to give them respect, or you want to uh, be humble and just give a smile, some people will always try to keep you villains. So heroes and villains, these are the things. We are far away from that, much above from that. Whenever you talk in Awaken and Talks on Life. Why am I saying this explicitly? Many people don't even understand what Awaken means. Staying in India, because now I can get that the woke word, or those words fabricated in such a way so that it can take you away from the Awaken word. So Awaken is not something we are doing something like a phony thing. We are doing something. Whether you awaken or not, it doesn't matter. We will just name it as Awaken. We will give a title and then you enjoy the thing. We are not doing that. Awaken, when we are doing that, we are touching, because by far I can see that I have touched people by using words, emotions, by my cocky things sometimes, by sometimes my this thing, the humor, wit, and all these things. But still I will try to maintain Awaken a bit away from that too, because it is like something we are doing much above from all these things, lower vibrations. We are not talking about that, but we are embracing that, because that is a part of life. So once you become sad, it doesn't matter. You are learning from that experience. You don't have to stay sad for your entire life. That's why we are having all these things, around us: nature, life, people, those courses, those books, your own realization. The best thing is your own realization. So when we talk about Awaken, it is very much experiential. If you truly believe it, you can believe in it. Otherwise, you don't have to believe in it. It is not indoctrination. But many people will try to create the archetypes and indoctrinate. We are not going there. Touch. So I wanted to, did I want to use the scientific terms? Okay. Did I want to use the actual thing, which I naturally do? Your instincts, your intuition. You have lived in this life. You have lived in this very planet for all these years. You will obviously have the wisdom. You will obviously have your talents. Everything is there. I don't have to tell you. Maybe I can be a catalyst. So how am I doing that? Maybe I am touching some part of yourself without even going there. How? Because we have gone through those experiences. We are being genuine to ourselves, to our realization, to our feelings. So that is touch too. It is not that you have to have a skin hunger. If I use the term, skin hunger, you need always a skin, that to the color of the skin hunger. We are not talking about that. We are touching. So let me just say a few things and then I come to touch. The ancient cultures, we used to have storytelling. So storytelling, we used to do stories, and if you see the cultures, you will see the myths and the stories. We used to touch people, folklore story. The stories used to touch us, and that is something innate in us. We are attuned to storytelling. We are attuned to touch because when we are infants, that compassion, that comfort we feel, that sense of solace, whatever you call it, and so much more than that. It's a language of communication, touch. So storytelling used to have that touch. Now using, I was writing few things down. More than words. What can be more than words? How can words touch? You can think about that. Poetry. When we talk about words, how can it touch words? Now, I am doing it in a different way, and many people will criticize that. But in the next week, you will see the tussle, or maybe they will try a lot, and you will ultimately get how they are pretending, how they are bringing things. But here, let me talk about things in a very straight manner. Words. How can words touch you? It's a basic thing. How can it touch you? You listen to a song, you listen to the lyrics, you listen to the music. Those are touching you. Poetry, you are reading poetry, you are listening to the poetry, the words are touching you. So there is a good touch, there is a bad touch. When you have good music, when you have good lyrics, you have the good touch too. Maybe it is touching your soul, maybe it is touching a deep part within yourself, maybe it is touching your true self. Storytelling, great movies. So lyrics, poetry, words, stories, novella, novel, literature, whatever you call it, it is touching. How can cinema touch? Amalgamation of all the arts, as I call it. So light you have, art direction you have, production design you have, literary values you have in the script. So in every way, in a cohesive way, in a synergistic way, you're touching. A great thing, a great experience. That's why the cinematic experience, the story is touching you. The way you tell the story, it is touching you. Words, the way you speak the words you use, the way you sing, the lyrics you use, the emotions you give, even more important, the feelings and emotions. Everything is touching you. You understand what I'm saying? How can light touch? When you're doing cinematography, light is touching you. Light is touching the subject you are lighting as well as the audience who is who are actually looking at the picture. Big screen, cinematography, your color palette, your light, in every way. This is communication. So we are communicating, and I can tell you it can be a universal language, touch, but in different cultures we are using different ways of speaking it. In some cultures we are having a firm handshake. In some culture you have to be more humble. In India there is a gesture called namaste. Many people call it. There is a gesture pranam and namaste. Many people call it. So we are touching your hands. You're not touching others' hands. You're touching your own hands. There are gestures. Some people are touching the feet of elders, though I don't suggest all the time, but it's a tradition and it has its own, devotional value. It has its own respect attached with it. But there are so many phony things in the culture. It has taken the people out of that devotion or that respect. So what do you get out of it? People who don't earn your respect, they expect you to touch their feet. I don't do that, because unless they have earned my respect, I don't touch the feet. But sometimes people who can come from very humble backgrounds, but you can touch their feet. Rishis, sadhus, sannyasis, they used to have that. Genuine people, not the phony ones. You felt like touching their feet. It's like a blessing. It's like a communication. But this culture, this media, consuming the media, and the media is shaped in a different way, the culture is shaped in a different way, and that too by particular influencers. They are having their perceptions and prejudices, their superstitions and all that stuff. It's a mixed hodgepodge. So ultimately when you touch the feet of that person, you see that the person is trying to do something else. So it's not the person. It's even I will say it's not the activity too. It's something more than that. If you really feel it, then only you do it. You respect your instincts. You respect your intuition. That is tremendously powerful. Because when it comes to touch, when it comes to intimacy, your instinct is tremendously powerful. You know that you won't touch that person, no matter how much he or she is trying to, persuade. You will feel that I won't let that person touch me. I do that. I have seen it many times. Many people get angry, then I have to do something else. I have to touch in a different way. Degree of dominance and degree of intimacy. There are things in life. So we do all those things. There is also touch. Some people are trained with abuse early in their life. They don't understand other languages. Then you have to touch them in a different way. They will understand that language more than words. When they talk about touch, their touch is a different touch because they are having a lot of bad perceptions and ill feelings, mostly driven by abuse and maybe lack of touch, or maybe and lack of touch plus a sense of abuse. You understand the combination of these things. So when they are using touch, or maybe they are using smiles or emotions, whatever be the thing, ultimately it is not the touch you actually think of, but you are believing in the words only. And that is the trick. They are using it for a long time. That's why in Awaken, you go more than the words too. In other places, we are using words, genuine words, not like ChatGPT, but genuine words. Well, I haven't used it, so I won't mention all those things. But many people are having that mindset, this combination, that combination, so that we can persuade it. But in writing, when it comes genuinely creative aspect of it, content writing, we have obviously a strategic part in writing, but we are not always trying to manipulate. So you understand what I'm talking about. Creatively, we are having the tools of writing, or the tools of languages, or the tools of communication. Then we are enjoying the dynamics of it, we are enjoying the arrangement of it, and then we are enjoying the wholesome experience of using the words. That's why we create poetry, we create writing. But many people are only based on those games and arrangements, so they don't touch much, or maybe they are touching in a different way. But when someone touches you, or you touch someone, you can write a poetry, and that poetry can be a very genuine poetry. So languages, different languages, love languages of those things. So snobs, you have seen a lot of snobs. Are they devoid of touch, or maybe they are too much conditioned in abuse, especially early in life? Some people are autistic, they are not even developing the words, passive aggressive people. So there are many things, but touch can reduce the stress. It can have a sense of bonding, it can have a sense of intimacy. It can improve your immunity, so many other things. It has all these good effects, and I prefer not to talk about touch in verbal way. So even if you show it, even if you feel it, it is very experiential. Because I have rejected many people, especially some people wanted to be in my movies. I heard that, and I know these people, what they try to do. They try to portray some roles. It has to do with that too, they try to portray few roles so that they can communicate that touch. Since you are the star, whatever you are doing, that is the right thing. So they are using the touch as a communication. Maybe on screen they are doing a romance, they are using the touch, but that touch itself is not that genuine touch. You can feel that. That's why we don't have those artistic movies, because they have a very bad notion towards art, very ill feeling, dirty feeling, and a bad notion towards art. So that, those things, and it's a very bad attitude, I would say. That's why you don't have those artistic feelings. Even an event happens in your life, they don't know how to look at those things in an artistic way. So they are using the word art, artist, artistic, and all these things, but not at all. That realization is not there. So my roles had a touch. Few of my roles had a touch, and many of my roles have intimate scenes, and those scenes of touch. And I didn't shoot some of those movies. because of those reasons too. Because if I feel the cast is not right, I'm not going to shoot that. I'm not going to allow many people while shooting too. So those things are basic things. But in India, the things is shaped by like that. This is the celebrity, he or she is doing it in this way, so this is going to be the norm. I don't work in that way. If there is the wrong thing, there is the wrong thing, whether it's a celebrity or it's a star or whatever it is, especially in cinema. Outside India, we don't have to think about all these things much, but in India, things are shaped like that, So I didn't allow the wrong ones, but now when I actually play those roles or do those things genuinely, because when I write from my genuine feelings. I see tears coming from my friends. I see tears coming from my brothers. I see tears coming from my sisters, my people. It feels like we have stayed for a long time together. We have stayed together for a long time. It's like we are childhood buddies. It's like we have stayed for so long. We know each other for a long time, and we don't have to utter a word. Yet we are having tears, maybe silent tears. I am not there. She is not here, but we are having tears, and the tear is and the tears or that language is a communication. We have touched each other, maybe through words, by emotions, feelings, and something much more than that. I won't put those things in words. Already I distorted things a bit because the more I talk about it, I think I am losing the poetry of it. I'm losing the philosophy of it. So whenever we are genuine towards those feelings, philosophy, poetry, that art aspect, everything is there. How can you be staying in denial? So Saraswati Puja, I will mention one thing. Saraswati Puja, Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge, wisdom, and instruments. I will just mention the Indian context a bit, and then I will go to a few things, and then I will wrap it up. Saraswati Puja, we have a thing, in Indian culture, we respect the musical instrument. When we are in art, I'm telling you one thing: when we are in art, the place where we are practicing the art, it's a place of devotion, it's a place of reverence, the term I would like to use, utmost respect. The instruments we respect, we worship, we touch the instruments with a lot of humility and respect, devotion, reverence, because those are the instruments. We are taking care of the instruments. We used to do that. When I first bought my guitar, I always I used to be very protective of my guitar, as well as very reverent towards my guitar, because it used to be my first instrument. Now I have violins and other instruments, and then your flutes and all these things, ukulele. But the first guitar you buy, the first synth you buy, or the first piano you buy, it has its own feeling attached with it, and you respect all these feelings. So Saraswati, being the goddess of music, knowledge, when we don't use our legs to touch the sheets of paper, or the books, or khata, whatever we call it, because whenever the legs touch the paper or the books or the khata, we do this, we do a gesture, so that we are showing respect to that. And musical instrument too, if the leg touches it, we are doing this sometimes. Many people are doing it in a different way, but there are ways, we are showing respect, because you are respecting the instrument, you are respecting the goddess, you are respecting the process of learning, you are respecting the process of practice, you are respecting the process of writing, everything you are respecting. So there is nothing about a fake game or whatever it is. You are not even thinking about that, because you are trained in a way, or you are having your education, you are having your wisdom, you are having your realization, so that you are respecting those things. Now, maybe in another culture, they are not respecting. Who is Saraswati? I will not give a damn. The moment you are doing that, it is not something you are disrespecting the culture. It is something, it's like an archetype, Saraswati as a goddess, an archetype. So when you are respecting Saraswati, you are respecting a goddess in any culture. There is a divine, what I can say, divine aspect of yourself that is concerned with knowledge and wisdom, with music, When you are respecting Saraswati in general, it doesn't matter what culture you belong to, you're respecting that thing, that respect towards music, that respect towards lyrics, that respect towards poetry, that respect towards education, whatever you call it. You are actually disrespecting it. Now, many artists can be progressive artists. They are respecting the goddesses, yet they are making maybe progressive arts depicting the goddesses. Can be. But when you are doing all those things, you are distorting the lyrics, you are distorting the music, you are distorting the knowledge. Why? Because you cannot withstand Saraswati. How can a woman be a goddess of wisdom, knowledge, and music and all that stuff? You cannot withstand that. That's another mindset. I'm talking about that mindset. But if you do it in one culture, you can do it in any culture. Otherwise, you're losing some aspect of yourself. You're disrespecting an aspect of yourself, an aspect of your own culture. So these are the basic things. We don't talk about all those things, but that reverence towards art, that reverence towards this process, this education, because many people are disconnecting education many people are disconnecting education from cinema in India. And you will see that. How can it be? Because cinema, whether you are going through a schooling or you are going through your own experiences, it has to have an educational value or an educational aspect in the process. You're looking at people, that is also learning. You're having the wisdom of people, wisdom of life, that is also learning, right? So education, when you disrespect that thing, you won't learn from that person, you won't learn from those people, you won't learn from that culture. When you are doing that, actually you are disrespecting the educational aspect of learning. So that's why you are disconnecting education from cinema. Now it can be different ways, because in different cultures we are doing it in different ways. That's another thing. But when you have an overall disrespect, that I am this and that is this is not this, and I will disrespect this, that kind of feeling, mixed with lack of touch, mixed with a lot of abuse, especially early in childhood, can be a detrimental thing for art or entertainment or anything, for education or cinema or business, for anything, you know. So, and continuously you are in denial and you want to keep others in denial. What is denial? From respecting your true self, or maybe from realizing the very basic, maybe a sexual communion, or maybe a touch, whatever be the thing. You are denying the very basic human experience. So those things are there. Even if you have a great feeling, you don't want to have that great feeling because you are in denial. So you're not even touching yourself properly with emotions, with words. So those things, can create really bad perception towards this profession, this or any profession, in fact. But since I'm mentioning art and cinema and other businesses, those are the things. So those things, and few things I want to mention. Language of communication, touch, as I have always mentioned. Sometimes, when we are not even physically touching, we are not even using the schemes, the uttering of the name can be a bad touch. Have you had that feeling? I have had this feeling. For many people, the uttering of a particular name, maybe they are intentionally trying to do that. When you utter the name, they should feel that they are touching a bad person, or a bad person is touching them. Those feelings, the personality, name, personality, a particular kind of smile, it is created in a way, it is seeming like a bad touch. Maybe because of this celeb status, you are not uttering those things, and but actually you are feeling it. So all these things you do just because of the celeb status, it cannot be an excuse. If you are understanding the feeling is a wrong feeling, you are getting a sense of bad touch or a sense of bad feeling, that is the right feeling you are having for yourself. So trust your instinct, trust your own feeling. A celeb status in a particular culture, that too in a distorted culture, cannot change the entire thing. Rather, you know what is the right decision to choose, what is the right action to be taken, right? So those things we can understand. Now we all have our fantasies, so to have that imagination, to have those fantasies, it is not a bad thing. I remember few people in the last few years, because all the criticisms you are listening to regarding me, that came in the last few years, because whether I am having a sexual fantasy or not, whether I touch this or that or not, whether that person touches me or not, those things came in the last few years. Before that, nobody was bothered, because they knew whatever decision I take, that is the great decision, perfect decision, so nobody has to interfere in that. But in the last few years, unless you create an archetype that this person is bad, so that the other person, or maybe the other two types, can be good people, occasionally maybe they are, but that constant thing won't happen. They won't have any existence, unless that mold or that other thing, close encounters with the third kind, if I say that third kind, if that third kind is, if it is not there, then they cannot be heroes, right? What is the third kind? Maybe that is the third kind, which is the wholesome third kind. They want everything to be separate in the other two kinds. But in the third kind, when everything is there, and they know the good things, they know the bad things, yet they are not too much obsessed with the good or bad. They're obsessed with the work, maybe obsessed with cinema, maybe obsessed with art, maybe. So priorities, how you set your priorities, those things will be there. uh, the problem is, after a while you tend to like that bad touch. In many relations, I when I have counseled people, I have seen that initially it is starting with rape, or initially it is starting with a bad touch. Then you are figuring out that you are having feelings for this person. Now there are artistic films regarding that, and you can create a great artistic film regarding that. These people, because of their denial and many things, it depends on culture too, because in cultures, you have, in different cultures, you have different values. These people are totally phony people. Some people, they are trying to create the culture in such a way so that they can bring those things, and they can create a lot of nuisance regarding that. And they want to keep this bad only, they want to keep this good only, so there is a lot of friction regarding that too. And they are always trying to stay in denial, or trying to think, what I can say, do the opposite of things. Maybe they are this, but they are trying to portray that they are this. So there is a constant friction regarding that too. And that is attached with something else too. So they have to maintain it. But we don't have to maintain anything. We can embrace the situations. We can embrace the experiences. It's an experience, it's a situation, it's an event. We know what we are. We don't have to be a slave to that situation. We don't have to be a slave to that event. We don't have to be a slave to that, that circumstance, or whatever you call it. But few people are slaves to those things. Especially if you are an actor, if you are a writer, if you are a director, the more you understand touch, I will say, in your personal relationships, or in your musings, or whatever you call it, in intimate relationships, you will see that you don't have to do all this extra work. You don't have to do all these things. You just be, and people will get it. You just talk, people will get it. You just do your own thing, people will get it. You understand what I'm talking about? So all those things. Now, I will mention one thing. Since I mentioned Saraswati, I will mention the quantity of books is increasing. Imagine a situation, the quantity of books is increasing. The quantity of sales is increasing. Fair enough. Revenue, profit, we are getting it. Branding, revenue, profit, everything in terms of business, we are getting it. What about the content? If the content is getting shallower, can you see the similarities? The content is getting similar. I'm talking especially in the Indian context. We are getting a lot of writers, maybe specifically chosen by few people. The content is getting shallower and shallower. But what they are focusing on? The numbers, quantity of the books. How many books are you publishing? That quantity. The number of sales, that quantity. But what about the content? What about the diversity of the content? What about the freedom of speech? What about the freedom of expression? Different writers having different styles of writing, different types of freedom of speech, freedom of, what I can call it, freedom of expression. Faux, many people call it faux. So all those things. So when you don't know about the components of cinema, storytelling used to touch us. The culture of storytelling, the science of storytelling, the art of storytelling, all these things used to touch us in different ways. The characters, plot, narratives, the wholesome experience of storytelling. Now we have cinema, a way we can show the story, the way we can portray those characters. Cinema used to touch us in different ways, different components and the synergistic aspect of it. But if you are denying that, if you are not having that experience yourself, then how can you express? How can you direct? How can you guide the actors? How the actors are bringing those things from their emotional memory, sense memory, or imagination, or their past experiences? How are you guiding them? So it is not a bad thing. We are human beings. It's a part of our life. Enjoy those things. And so I think if you have gone to Artist 7 or other places, I don't have to mention all these things. You have already felt it, or in the coming episodes, you will feel it more, in fact. The thing. So there are people like touch phobic people, touch. There is touch phobia, there is touch philia, but it depends on the culture too. It depends on the dynamics of the relationship, definitely. Senses and the soul you are having. So non-verbal modality, many people call it. Gender, it's a big thing because homosexuality, heterosexuality, we call LGBTQ. Some people are having bad feelings about that too. Maybe one person is so-called homosexual, but he or she doesn't even understand what is touch, what is the good touch, what is the bad touch. Whenever the gender comes into the equation, it has to be a bad touch for someone. There are people like that too in India, and driven by the celebrities, because celebrities and fans, they're having a communication. What is the communication? Bad touch. What is the communication? A wrong touch. What is the communication? Disturbance. What is the communication? Disturb the actual thing. The moment he or she is getting the realization, or he or she is getting the actual feeling, disturb that person. That person is bad. He is the villain. She is the villain. Disturb him or her. He cannot stay in the society. She cannot stay in the society. Things are like that in many places. We are far away. We are far away and far above from that. So that is one thing. So that's why, trust your instincts. These instincts will teach you a lot. This person cannot be trusted. That person cannot be trusted. Maybe once or twice I have made the mistake, not anymore. So comfort level with physical contact, some people call it proxemics. People study all these things, prospect, whether you are having proxemics, whether you are having intimacy, is that the person a great prospect for your long-term bonding or relationships? We talk about all these things. It can be exploratory. I'm coming there. Shape, texture, shape, and firmness. I do all these practices. As an actor, you can do that. Shape, texture, firmness, and so many other things. So you touch different kinds of material. You are having different experiences. It can be a metal. It can be something of art or soil. It can be something of clay. It can be something of other materials. When you are touching, you are having that feeling. And we are having a lot of metals too. So when you are touching different metals, you can have those feelings, vibrations, and all those things. Gold is called to be very beneficial for. That's why we have these rings, of made of gold and other materials, so that it is having some beneficial value. And shapes, textures, firmness. If you are doing sculpting, you know how it is. When you have to be firm, when you have to be very sophisticated, when you are doing a very nuanced and sophisticated thing, art. And when you have to, put the clay and build the basic structure, then you are going for sophistication. So you know how to change your dynamics accordingly. So those things again, love, gratitude, compassion, people talk about all these things. So the dynamics and the social context, and the degree of dominance and degree of this intimacy I talked about. I think, and another thing, the problem, the whatever I am talking about, many people call touch a language of communication, and you will see communication, because there is, if you talk about touch in a scientific manner, you will see there is encoding and there is decoding. Even when I am talking, when I am writing, sometimes I do it just like that. Many people think that I should talk in a more professional way. I have done it for many years. Maybe from September onwards, I will do that too, diplomatic and professional manner. But here I want to keep things in a very candid way, at least till today. So, because from the faults or failures, you can get a lot. If you are learning it from me, then you can learn it from other people too. That can be one thing, because it is not that you are looking at my flaws, it can be universal human flaws. So when you are looking at me and learning from those flaws, learn from those flaws. I am not indoctrinating you. So when you are learning that, you can recognize it in other people. You can create art from that. So those things are there. But that cohesion, I will say, and touch is something we take it for granted because of the culture. In India, it is a very stupid thing, because and it is too, based on the things people have experienced in media. Initially, we didn't have a problem with nudity or touch, but now you will be amazed. People are getting crazy about touch and sex. Obviously, this we don't utter these words in this way, because if you go to other places, I'm mentioning all these things. Touch, people are getting crazy, almost crazy. Why? Media, celebrities, fans. They think, since you are a celebrity, whatever you are showing, whatever you are doing, whatever you are showing, whatever you are, making, that is the right thing. Again, the same thing. So the fan culture, the cult, or whatever you call it, the fans and this group of people, they think that that is the right thing to do. Everything else is bad. Even some people are telling you that this is the bad thing and this is the good thing. Forcefully, they are telling it. So you are not having a scope for realization. You see a good thing, you don't know how to respect that thing. You see love, you don't know how to respect that love. You see a good person, you don't know how to respect that person. Rather, you are thinking, what is this person, this and that. You are actually being very judgmental. This, is she having that? Is she having that? I mean, there are women in India. They are marrying people based on the salary. They are marrying people based on the size of their home. They are marrying people based on very material things. There are people like that. They are not having satisfaction. They are not having anything. But when the situation arises, they are grouping together because they are thinking that they have something to believe in. What are they believe in? It is not success. It is not something like that, because they don't even realize the satisfaction of success. That person is doing it. That person is having a home. That means that is the right thing to have, a great home. And that person is showing it to people, from celebrities to fans. If I am having a home, that means if I am having a big home, that is the right thing to do. That means I am a great celebrity. So this person is thinking, whenever I see in the society that person is having a big home, that person is having a great home, that is something I can trust in. Otherwise, everyone else is bad. Situations are in India, like situation in India are like that too. But it depends on the dynamic and social context again. Initially, you will see people will try to wear a lot of masks, and the moment you poke in the right points, they will lose those masks. Why do I say you trust your instincts? Because you have to invest less. In the few initial conversations, or even the sightings, or even just looking at people, you will see whether to invest or not. In business, it is tremendously beneficial. in art, in casting, in everything. Everywhere you take the decisions based on human talents. It can be your corporate structure, corporate culture, wherever you are believing in human beings. This person is fit for this job. If this person is having these characteristics or something more than that, you know how to trust those bigger things. That that person cannot do the job. He or she will be busy with gossip or other people with similar mindset. They cannot grow, they cannot enjoy those things, they cannot do the work because their priorities are different. The moment they see one person who is very good with all these things, an artist, to be an artist, in India is such a tough thing nowadays. I didn't know that, and I still don't believe that. But nowadays, I poke people and I get the response. You know what the problem is? Festivals. Some people have entered the festivals. I mentioned abuse and festivals, and I will mention in other ways. Festivals are something of celebration. We are celebrating cinema, we are celebrating art, we are celebrating human beings. Ultimately, we are celebrating humanity only, right? So when we deny the basic innate communication or language of compassion, language of comfort, language of intimacy, touch, then you understand what is going to be the scenario. That person came to this festival, that person came to this thing. So what happened? We have to believe in that. And in the background, we are having so many ill feelings about that very touch itself. You understand what am I talking about? And prospect, I mentioned prospect. The problem is many people looking at these celebrities, they are choosing their life partners unless they see the third kind, close encounters with the third kind, or whatever I call it. I'm just doing some fun, having some fun. Unless we see, those that third kind or another person who we can trust, who we can believe in, people live their entire lives having the wrong partner. They think whatever they have seen in the movies, whatever they have seen around them, that is the only thing. That's why when some people don't marry, maybe they are understanding more. The relationships, marriage, the sense of touch, the sense of communication, the language of communication. So respect those people. If they are not marrying, if they are going through celibacy, if they are going through brahmacharya, we call it brahmacharya, it might be something great. Maybe you are not big enough to understand it. So respect those people. And in India, you should, because that has been our culture. We should respect that. You understand what I'm talking about? You will understand touch a lot more. When you write, when you express, when you act, when you create art, you don't have to utter the word touch, but you will touch the audience. You will touch the human beings through your content, through your words, art, whatever I call it. Then you can improve from that too. There is always scope for improvisation. There is always scope for having different experiences, but we are enjoying those experiences. We are not living in denial. Thank you so much.